Welcome to Death Holler. Do you like scary movies? Welcome to Season 3, Slash or Pass. There will be laughter, tears, tender moments,
Jason, my special boy.
but most of all, screams. Remember, when you're in Death Holler, listener discretion is always advised. We hope you have a killer time.
What do you have to say about 2 really quick? You can just kind of go over, like what your thoughts were, like what it's about and what your thoughts were on it.
Well, I didn't make it through the second one all the way. I've seen this movie before, and I think I thought it was good when I was a kid. I am to be forgiven, okay? Because now I don't like shit. So how about that, okay? But this is the movie where basically he's trying to get his bride, and it is as cheesy as you can imagine, a man of his stature trying to get a beautiful, gorgeous blonde woman, which, by the way, they get the blonde in this movie. You get what they wanted from Jennifer Aniston.
They do that in part 4 as well whenever I talk about it, but yes.
Okay. Briefly, I did want to kind of go over the deaths real quick. And then I don't know what you want me to say about this movie because I don't have much to say. It wasn't.
You just say it's a shit movie or
Yeah,
whatever you want to say, or it was boring or whatever.
The first one leaps and bounds better than this one. I don't know what they thought they were going to get out of this movie. But let me see here. Let me see if it'll give me. Okay, so this is a list of death here it goes, part 2. Okay, we have the leprechaun who basically killed someone by the name of William O'Day, lifted and his neck was snapped by magical collar, and then he was dropped. It could have been better. Ian, also killed by the leprechaun, which, by the way, all of these were killed by the leprechaun. His face was put into 2 propellers. Pretty good. Not going to lie. That was my favorite one. The waiter, whose face was scalded with a coffee steamer. Scalded, but he shouldn't have died from that, in my opinion. This one was okay. Morty Ingalls, whose stomach was ripped open. Finally, we're getting real slasher with it. So the deaths, I guess, a little bit better. And then we had more, too. We had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and not including the alleged death of the leprechaun. A security guard who was ran over with a go-kart. And then I didn't make it to this part of it, but the leprechaun was allegedly killed. He wasn't. With getting his chest impaled with a wrought iron bar, and then blown up.
I like the addition of the wrought iron because that does take out Faye in some of the older stories.
Yes.
So that's got some legitimacy to it.
Iron does. So yeah, and obviously, clearly that's why it's called an iron bar. But yeah, so I guess, but do they stick with that lore? I guess we'll find out as you continue with the movies.
No. No, they don't. So general thoughts about part 2, and then I'll pick up some of the other ones here.
You don't have to watch this to continue with the series. I don't believe. I don't feel like you have to watch any of them to continue with the series. They don't follow any.
You don't have to follow any of them in order. They've got I would say go with like what you think is the most outrageous ones because of that kind of kitsch factor and do it that way, because that's the way I watch these in the line of what I thought would be the most ridiculous, because that would be the most enjoyable, and they play out exactly that way. So
yeah, and not only that, but this was another movie that they tried. You could tell that they tried to make it a serious movie again, and I mean, they got a little bit more with the comedy, just a little bit more, but it was still in that attempt to be a horror film. So, oh my God. Here's the storyline, according to IMDb. On his 1000th birthday, so apparently this is 600 years after the first film? No, not, it's 400 years. Because he said he was 600.
400 years because he was 600 years old, supposedly in the first one.
Mm-hmm. A mean leprechaun gets to choose his bride by making her sneeze 3 times, and then she's his. I don't know if she made it to that third sneeze, folks, because I didn't make it that far into the film. I'm going to be real honest with you, okay? And then she says, only the bride he chooses is the daughter of his slave who fouls up the wedding. So Leprechaun must wait until his 2000th birthday. Now we're 1400 years later. Oh, so I guess maybe that was where it originally started, the 1000th. But no, it's not, because it was 600 in the first film. Okay, good. So I am mathing correctly.
Yeah, you're mathing it right, but they've changed his lore up in this one, apparently.
So now he must wait until his 2000th birthday to claim the woman of his nightmares. I do like that part. The descendant of the woman he wanted to marry already has a boyfriend, a brave young boy named Cody, who ends up killing him at the end of the film, who lives with his swindler, Uncle Morty, and together they run a tour company called Dark Side Tours. Leprechaun soon wakes up, kills a bunch of people, and kidnaps his bride-to-be. It's soon up to Cody to save her, and only an wrought iron bar can destroy the leprechaun. Oh, my God, I want to go to bed. Anyways, I'm going to end right there. I'm over it.
So in the sequel to that, part 3, totally does away with everything that came before it. Has no bearing on this whatsoever. It starts out with some bedraggled old man, might be a priest if I remember right. Don't really remember because it was so quick into the movie. But basically, he walks into a pawn shop in Las Vegas.
The pawn shop.
He's trying to offload the statue he's got of the leprechaun, and it's got a bag in one hand. It's made out of stone completely. It's got a bag in one hand, which is its gold, and then he's got like a medallion, a very nice medallion around his neck. And the old man tells him cryptically, he's like, do not, he gets whatever out of it. He's like, I just want to be done with this. You can tell he's been through some shit too, because he's like bloody and all that. He's like, do not take the medallion. He said, you can have anything else on it, but don't take the medallion off. And of course, the Indian proprietor, Gupta, who is running the pawn shop, immediately takes the medallion off because fuck, you're a pawn shop owner. You want to sell this shit. I mean, you're like, the Pawn Stars. You want to get as much as possible. And while he's doing that, and he gets on the internet, which is a very laughable, like early internet. It's got like these cartoon graphics and all that, and it's like, so you want to learn about leprechauns, and it's like, it gives this like whole backstory about how they are and all this stuff while he's watching this and trying to figure out, because the medallion's apparently worthless. Old Lep comes back to life. He instantly like rematerializes in the flesh because the medallion's no longer on him.
Oh, okay.
And he starts, and then like he attacks Gupta. Like I can't remember if he bites him on the arm first or the ear, but it's one of those things. And so they have a back and forth, and it cuts away from them to our protagonist. It's this young man who's just in the Vegas. He's just been given like $23,000 check from his parents to go to college on, and he meets and he happens upon this girl who's broken down the streets. She's an attractive young woman. She works at like basically a Siegfried and Roy type thing in one of the Vegas casinos, but it's only like the magician she works under is just one guy, but he's it's hinted in the movie by our old friend Stretch from Texas Chainsaw 2's in this movie, and older Caroline Williams. it's hinted that the guy's gay or whatever. She does
Oh.
she keeps calling him girlfriend and stuff like that whenever
Girly.
she sees him. Yeah. But anyways, so he runs up on her. Her car's broke down. Like, he offers to take her to work because he asks her some questions. He's like, "Do have any rods knocking in it?" And she's looks at him like, "I have no clue what you're talking about." And he's just like, "Whatever, I'll just drive you there."
At least she's honest.
So he promises her that he won't like play in the casino, and then she goes to do her job. And of course, he gets greedy and he loses every fucking bit of money he has. But the reason he loses his money is because he's playing a roulette with Caroline Williams' character, and she's got like this button underneath the table that can magnetically stop the balls it's rolling.
Mm-hmm.
And she basically cheats him out of all of his money, and then tells him when he has nothing left, she's like, "Well, honey, if you want to get he's got his watch there." She's like, "There's this guy, go talk to Gupta across the street. He'll give you some money and you can come back and play another round if that's what you want to do." And so so that's how he gets introduced to the leprechaun, and that's the whole thing. And then our final girl, it's revealed that she's working for the guy who runs the casinos, in with the mob, of course. And he's a scumbag, and he's like all the time trying to get her to fuck him, and like she's always having to turn that down. And so she is a pretty good final girl in that sense. She's strong, independent. I mean, there is a scene in the movie where, because the whole gist of this movie is, if you've got the because the main protagonist, the male, finds out on that lore on that guy's computer after he's like been killed, old Gupta's been taken out, like he happens upon that, that web page, that if you wish upon a leprechaun's gold, you get whatever you want. And so he sees one of the shillings there, and he wishes that he was back on a hot streak at the casino, and instantly gets transported back. And basically every time that he bets on anything, he puts that shilling on top of the pile of his chips that he's won, and they magically move to whatever number is going to be rolled. And so that's how, that's the first part of the, that's how, what he gets out of the whole wish on the shillings. And everybody throughout the movie gets a wish, basically, except for the main actress. Like, she never officially wishes, because every time she does, or the final girl, something distracts her, like leprechaun comes up on them, or she's busy trying to save somebody. So like she never gets to wish. But, so Caroline Williams wishes that she was beautiful again, because she's supposed to be like this washed up, wishes that she was as pretty as the final girl in the movie. And I don't think the change was that dramatic. I mean, it's basically she goes to like this very short haircut, shorter than what she had in Texas Chainsaw 2. And it basically looks like what Jamie Lee Curtis wears now, if you want to, visualize it. And and then a short cut dress, and but because she was kind of dressing frumpy early in the movie. But when the leprechaun kills her, it's he acknowledges how vain she is, and so he causes both her ass to start blowing up, her boobs to start blowing up, and her lips, and so she looks like an abnormal duck waddling at one point before her ass blows out completely. So that's an interesting kill.
Which is funny because I'm looking on Google right now, and that's the first thing that popped up. I didn't even look her up. And I feel like I remember this scene. Anyways.
It's a pretty effective scene. I mean, it's pretty horrifying, and she's like, screaming out, like, she's mad at him at the same time she's freaked out, because she looks ridiculous. After she just got her wish that she's beautiful again. The creepy guy who runs the casino, he gets the second wish after the main guy does in the movie, and he wishes that the girl, that our final girl was like hot for him, and she magically shows up, and he takes her all the way up to the bedroom, and she's right on the verge of showing her tits whenever Carolyn Williams steals the shilling. And then basically when somebody else gets the shilling besides the person who's in control of it, that wish automatically ends. And so the final girl comes to her senses and thinks that she's been roofied or something to that point, and leaves, so there's that whole thing.
Oh my God.
And then the guy in the creepy mob guy who runs a casino, the leprechaun plays into his lust by showing him this basically this porn star on the TV screen, and she crawls and she magically appears in his room with him, and he just he's thinking with his dick at that point, so he just totally was like, sure, you're in here now, that's fine. And what it turns out to be is that she's this really crudely put together sex doll that's like got wires attached to her. And so while she's straddled on top of him and then fully, engaged, as it were,
Plugged
she
in,
electrifies him.
Nice.
So that's an interesting kill too. So I'll give him credit for that. The main character, the guy, he's fighting with the leprechaun at one point because the leprechaun wants his shilling back, and he gets bit on the arm, and then but he attacks the leprechaun with a knife, and what happens is that some leprechaun's blood like drips down onto his arm, and from then on his arm looks really infected. And they set up in this movie that if you get the leprechaun's blood in a wound, it never comes back, folks, so don't worry about this. But if you get the leprechaun's blood in your wound in this movie, you start turning into a leprechaun, and that's what happens to him throughout the movie. He starts getting the powers. He starts craving gold and being greedy and stuff like that. And so the final girl is actually a true final girl in this movie. She's actually trying to save him and get the process reversed while trying to get rid of the leprechaun at the same time. And she's actually a legitimately good final girl. I mean, she's attractive, she's smart, she's sassy. I mean, she fits all the molds, that you would want. And then toward the end of the movie, of course, I think they find out that the medallion is that, he's scared of the medallion. So they use that to their advantage. But they don't actually use the medallion to cover him back up and turn him to stone. If I remember right in this movie, the guy who's part leprechaun himself, they do something as far as let's see, what do they cause him to blow up, like he catches on fire and like he completely burns away. This is the only movie where he actually gets fully destroyed at the end of it.
Yeah.
And then I don't remember exactly how they do that. It involves the medallion in some sense. Maybe they shove it into his mouth and he's or something like that. But anyways, he blows up and burns up at the end of this movie. And then of course after that, the guy turns back into normal because the leprechaun's gone. Or no, I know what they do. They melt his gold. That's how they get rid of him. I take that back. The medallion has nothing to do with it. They realize the smart thing is that he's always wanting the gold, and the gold's tied to his power. So if they destroy the gold, then it will no longer exist because he loses all of his power. So that's what they do. They set fire to the gold, and it's almost like like whenever you expose a vampire to sunlight, he just catches fire and explodes. That's how they kill him.
Okay.
Which is actually fairly inventive. I'll give them that. I think that's actually one of the smarter ways to get rid of him in these movies.
Yeah.
The Siegfried and Roy guy, by the way, he gets killed because he's doing a magic show, and the Lep shows up and puts him, he wishes that he could play whatever the biggest casino is in Vegas. I can't remember now which one it is. And he's there playing, he's doing his magic show there to a packed audience, just like he wished. But after he does the saw a woman in half trick, his assistant's gone, the leprechaun replaces her. And then, and by the way, tangent, but the leprechaun portrays women in a lot of these movies and then turns into them. So he's got that whole Freddy trap that we talked about, where Freddy appears as a sexy woman and then turns into him. That happens a lot with a leprechaun in these movies. But I don't think that she turns into a leprechaun. I think he just appears, and then he traps him inside that, and he actually saws him in half, and there's blood coming out as he's sawing, and then he goes ta-da, and he presses them apart, and you can see the guy's guts fall out, and the whole audience is screaming and stuff. So that's a pretty good scene in it, I guess.
Yeah. And
like I said, it ends with them destroying the gold, and they find the one shilling. She walks out with a guy. And just to give you, I don't know, comic book fans will know this reference, but she's got that classic magician's assistant, casino girl outfit on throughout the entire movie too, like the final girl does. She looks like a Zatanna, if you've ever seen that comic book character from DC, very
Uh-huh.
tightly cut, crop top, that shows most of her cleavage and booty shorts, that sort of thing.
Is it the black outfit?
What is it?
Is it the black outfit? Is that the
it's
one?
like a tuxedo type
Yes.
outfit,
Okay.
Yeah, that sort of thing. So anyway, she walks out with this guy, and then like and she's got one wish, and she's like, no, I've got everything I want. It's kind of cheesy in a sense,
Oh
but
God.
she looks at him, and then she just kind of tosses the shilling away, and she's like, that's like the only protagonist in any of these movies that actually turns away from the leprechauns, like gold and stuff. Like, so she's the one true hero in all these movies, if you want to look at it that way. Part 4 is the one where they
hold on. Before you move on to 4,
Okay.
at least one part of the Death Holler Awards for part 3. Who had the best boobs? Was it the robot or was it what's her name? Christine Williams.
I wouldn't say it's Caroline Williams, because
Caroline.
even after she does the change, like, I mean, she goes from having like those tits that are like down in your, like your pant belt, that's her character. The way that they portray her, she's one of those women that's got like the saggy tits, before and she just has like normal size, and they don't even like really get shown in that outfit she has.
Yeah.
The main final girl actually has the best pair in the whole movie, but she's on the verge of showing them, and then snaps back, and so we never actually get to see them, but we get to see the cleavage the entire movie. So
yes, so the robot
A+
wins
on
then.
that.
The robot actually shows its boobs.
The robot actually, and hers are okay. They're still not as good as the final girls. So Death Holler Awards for that. Final girl, she's a pretty good final girl, to be honest, in these movies. I mean, attractive, smart, all that stuff that goes along with it.
Yeah.
Part 4 jumps the shark, and as far as this movie, it's enjoyable for what it is. It's not one of the worst in the series by any means. Part 4 jumps the shark in a good way. It's in outer space. When you want to jump the shark in a horror movie series, you always go to space. We'll get to that in the Friday movies, especially. But Critters did the same thing, even though Critters is an alien that lands on our planet, so it makes more sense for Critters to go back to space. It was still one of the crappier movies in that series, and so I wasn't expecting much with this, but they actually built decent, like space, like ship, interiors or backdrops. So I'll give them credit for that, because I'm sure the budget was shit for it. But it actually had a decent look as far as like a mid 90s or late 90s, whenever it came out, like cheap movie set for like space. It had a decent look to it. I'll give them that.
I can't believe this.
It actually looks pretty decent. The thing I love about it, though, is it goes all the way back. It's like Star Wars in the sense that it's not like a full like technological space. It's more of a fantasy space, in the sense that at the beginning of the movie, there is the Space Marines are going to save this princess who has got like magical tits that she can hypnotize people with. They reveal that later in the movie. It's not something they establish early on, but her king, like the Space King, is wanting to rescue the princess. And so they're being paid to go to this planet where this alien has abducted her. So it's that whole like, kind of, going harkening back to like the 50s style, like, fantasy, space or whatever, where there's like prince and princesses in outer space and magic and that sort of bullshit.
Yeah.
So I kind of like it for that, because it's kind of fun. It's kind of a fun throwback. But the actress they got to play that princess is actually pretty hot. I want to say that she was like either a porn star, or she was one of those women who always posed for like, like not really Playboy, but like if not Playboy, like the Sports Illustrated, like where they were basically showing everything but the nipples. I want to say that she was in that stuff. Trying to see, I've got it pulled up here. It was Rebecca Carlton who played that character. Princess Zarina is the character she was playing.
I don't know why she sounds so familiar.
But the main thing with her is that the leprechaun happens to be there randomly on this planet in outer space, and he actually gets to the alien first and kills it. And the whole reason he's doing that is because he wants to marry her. Just going back to the whole thing from part 2. He wants to marry the space princess because he wants to become the space king.
I mean, dream big.
Yeah, and that's what he's doing. And throughout the movie, and I mean, they portrayed it first as like he's really like lusting after her, and the funny thing is that like he works this weird charm on her because he plays to her like she's greedy, like she's a shit person. Like that's the thing I love about it too. Like she's supposed to be the space princess, but she's working angles too. Like she's wanting freedom from her father, the king. And so like her way of doing that is she marries this little piece of shit, then she can both disappoint her father and she can become the new queen and take over and get all the power that way. And both her and the leprechaun are both planning on killing each other after they're married so that they don't have to deal with the other person and get all the control, which is hilarious.
I can't with this movie.
But anyways, the Space Marines show up, and one of the first kills in the movie is that the leprechaun sneaks up on one of them and basically uses a lightsaber to hack him up.
Shut the fuck up.
No, I'm serious. It's like it doesn't look like a lightsaber for, reasons that are legal, I'm sure, but it's like this laser light that pops out of like the end of like this little sword handle that fits like the leprechaun's hand, and he uses it to chop the guy up. So it's a laser sword. Do what you want with that.
Shut up.
At one point in time, let's see. So let me see. I'm going to the kills on this. So we've got Lucky, who's the guy who's hacked to death with a lightsaber. We've got Kowalski, who is the best kill in any of these movies. So they blow up the leprechaun in this very first part of the movie because they've got like rocket launchers and shit, and they just blow him all to pieces. Kowalski goes over there and pisses on his like foot, like that's remaining, and like he's got some kind of, it's like marking his territory or whatever. But he contracts like a space STD from the leprechaun when he does it, because leprechaun's essence flows up through his piss into his dick. And then later on in the movie, whenever he's like getting about to get it on with one of the hot, there's like two hot ladies that work with that's also, one's a doctor who's been like kind of converted over to like help the Marines out, and the other one's a Marine. Well, he's with a hot Marine, and like he's getting ready to do it with her, and all of a sudden he starts having issues downstairs, and the leprechaun bursts out of his dick, basically.
Ew!
So he gives birth to the leprechaun through his dick hole, if you want to, and that's how he dies.
Sounds like
so
a
that's
bad
probably
UTI.
They even say that in the movie. They're like, the leprechaun comes out and he's like, you got to wrap up your Jimmy or something like that. It's like, they even mention it that way.
No. I want to go home.
Somebody later named Mooch, like they go into a certain part of like, I don't know if it's the ship or some like, or they have to, that's on like a planet or something that's like nearby. They're trying to like scout for something because these people keep dying and they don't believe that the leprechaun's there. And so, and of course the princess is on the ship. They've rescued her, but she's like comatose at the time because there's this one pervy scientist who's like licking around all over on her while she's in like this deep sleep. So anyways, this Mooch guy gets his flesh completely eaten off by this bacteria that's in this one section of the ship that they go into at one point.
Ouch.
Danny is another one of Space Marines, gets squished by a space crate. We have the guy he doesn't get killed in it, but we have the guy from Friday Part 5 who sings ooh baby and talks about the tacos giving him the shits. He's back in this movie and actually one of the better parts in the movie. So Miguel Nunez, I believe is the actor's name. Glad to see you back, sir. You're appreciated. We have Dolores.
I don't appreciate him.
We have Dolores, who is the hot Marine. She gets locked away from the other ones and is on a catwalk, and she thinks that she can take old Lep out, and she does blow him to like pieces, but he reforms instantly, of course, because magic. And he knocks her over the rail, and while she's holding on, like he's basically like this little piggy, and he does that thing until she falls. He does bash one knuckle in pretty hard with his like little stick that he's got. So I mean, like that's kind of bad, but it's kind of stupid how she gets killed. the creepy scientist Harold, that's the cartoon part of the movie, because like the leprechaun takes like a saucer that he finds in the lab that's got like all these chemicals on it, and of course it looks like the traditional mad scientist lab that you've ever seen in any shitty movie, and he takes all the chemicals and dumps them off. I thought he was going to throw them in the guy's face, but no. He takes the saucer and throws it at that scientist's face, and it smashes his face against the wall, and it looks like a moon face pancake as he's like sliding down the wall and dying almost, it's like the cartoon physics where it just takes on the shape of the plate basically. There's this one other scientist who runs the ship who's like half cyborg, and that's the other thing. There's the colonel who runs the Marines. He's got like this really shitty metal plate in his head that like it looks like was badly grafted on. He looks like what Cousin Eddie would have been if the plate that he keeps tapping on and Christmas Vacation would have looked like if it exposed some of his scalp, but or what Chop Top would have looked like, or looked like a little bit when he was scraping away at the top of his plate. But anyways, this guy looks just as bad or worse because he's like attached to like this, futuristic wheelchair, basically. Leprechaun takes and shoots his brain up with a princess nearby, and she's loving it because she's evil too, just like him. He gets like shot up with these chemicals straight into his brain, and they turn him into a giant space spider throughout the movie. So he comes back later, and he gets frozen in liquid nitrogen and blown up by the final girl, I believe it was, in that scene. And and then we have the sergeant who gets turned into a drag queen by the leprechaun, forced to attack his fellow, the rest of the Marines that are left while he's doing a dance number in his like sexy outfit.
Oh my God.
And then he gets electrocuted to death. That's how he dies. The leprechaun loves drag queens. I don't know why, but that's a big thing. And then, of course, the leprechaun at the end of the movie gets like sucked out into the cargo hold into space after he's been enlarged by this ray gun that the final girl shoots at him to the size of he's like the size of a T-Rex walking around at this point in the movie. They blow him out into space, and he blows up, and then his fist, which is massive, they can see out through the porthole. It just forms like a middle finger, and it flips them all off, and they just kind of laugh, and that's how the movie ends. Are you having fun yet on these descriptions?
Oh my God. I don't even know what to think about these. Did you think this was
to be fair, the women in this movie are extremely attractive, so I'll give them
because that's just going to keep me, enthralled.
I know, I'm just telling you. And then the space princess does show her tits at one point in the movie because, like I said, she's got magical tits. Whenever she pops them out, the women and the men all become mesmerized, and they just stand there and they can't do anything else,
Reverend, I understand why you didn't mind continuing watching these films. I believe that Noah would have probably had a great time as well. I'm listening to this and I cannot believe, I feel like you're lying to me, but then you're talking about the boobs and I'm like, nope, this is real. All this bullshit happened and it had tits. We need to go old school. We need to go back to the old, what do you call it? Rotting corpses scale. What would you give this specific movie on the rotten corpses scale?
As far as the movie's quality itself, it's a 1.5. As far as how enjoyable it was probably a 3.5.
Oh my God. I can't believe you made it this far into it, but you wouldn't watch number 2, and I thought number 2 was bad. Now I'm going to go back and be like, guys, go watch number 2. Give it a chance. Okay, if you're going to continue with 3 and 4, you can handle 2.
Well, 3 is a decent horror movie, but 4 it just rolls into the camp. Now the one thing I don't like about 4 is that he loses the rhyming in that one. I think he technically loses it in the third one too, if I remember right. But it's definitely gone in the fourth movie.
But he gets it in the hood, doesn't he? Because you're basically
he goes
rapping.
way back into it in the hood movie.
Okay, good, because he's rapping, I imagine, at this point.
Kinda, yeah. But in 4, the lines he delivers are, there's a few funny ones, like I said, about wrapping it up whenever he bursts out of the guy's dick hole, but it's not, saying that's hilarious. But like it's a different, he's all about trying to get with this princess in this movie. He doesn't even care about his gold so much. They've got his gold and he mentions it, but he's really trying to find the princess again and get the gold and get the fuck out of there because he just wants to be king of space. That's all he wants to be in this movie.
Well, he wants
that's
a hot broad to fuck too, so
Well, but that's funny. Toward the end of the movie, like they start like snipping at each other. They start like, even though they got this plan that they're going to take over everything, they both start playing their hands out because like he mentions something like he mentions under his breath, he's like, "You hateful bitch," and she's like, "What did you say to me?" And he's like, "Oh, I said we'd be rich," and she, like he covers it up that way, and when he blows up in outer space, she's looking out the porthole too and sees it, and she's like, she's something like goodbye to the king or something like that, and she's smiling so she didn't have to like share the throne with him.
Jesus Christ.
She's a terrible person, and it's just funny that like and they don't even address the fact that she's still on the ship at the end of the movie too, which is hilarious. Like the Nunez, the main guy who's the Marine that's left, and then the final girl, they're all three like in the main hold, and they're like seeing that getting flipped off by the leprechaun's hand out in outer space. And like they don't give a shit that she's even still on the ship, and that's the whole reason that they're even still there is to try to save her and take her ass back. So
what was funnier, this one? Well, I guess Spaceballs wasn't meant to be campy at all. It was just a comedy.
Spaceballs is funnier if you're talking about straight up humor, but like this one as far as the camp, it was highly enjoyable just for the because they really,
I imagine it was, Reverend.
They really did play up though that whole cheesy outer space thing. They knew what they were making with this movie. They didn't even attempt to make it any better. I think it was funny that they were in like the cantina on the ship or whatever, or the cafeteria section, and they had those glasses that the Marines were drinking of that I remember back from the 90s that were like they had like these ridges built around them, like they almost looked like if you imagine what the Michelin Man looks like. Yeah, these cups were like that, and I'm like, yeah, that's. Of course, they would have that in a futuristic movie because that's what we used to always talk about whenever we were kids and we had those glasses. It's like, I got a cup from the future, that sort of stupid shit. Oh I'm God. Like, that's the kind of thing that you would put in a movie like this because of the budget and everything else to make it look spacey or whatever. So, okay, how does this movie compare to Killer Clowns from Outer Space? Killer Clowns is always going to be better than these movies.
Just checking. I just had to make sure because we had tits in this movie.
I enjoyed it more than part one. I did. Because it leans into the camp. So. Oh my God. Yeah, that is the mistake that part one and part two made, is that they're like, oh, let's be a scary movie. And it's like, but you're not. So where do we go from here? And where do you go when you've been to outer space? Well, you go to the hood. Oh. So let's go and talk about that movie now. Let me see here. I have to pull this back up.
Did it get all out of whack again?
Yeah, it did.
Oh boy. I wonder if that has anything to do with me being in it as well.
No, it does. And it's just the fact whenever I'm trying to scroll backwards or try to go up or down.
Oh yeah, you have that stupid Apple computer. That's what you get. You should have a PC.
Yeah. I would if I was whenever we finally do switch over to the full landline, that's probably what I'll do. I think part of my problem too was I was on it, but I didn't update the notes on this. So I think it was in, let's see, I don't know the year in this one. It's Leprechaun 5, which they dropped the 5 in the movie. They don't actually say it. It's Leprechaun in the Hood. Tagline is Lep in the Hood, come to do no good.
And I dig that. 2000 is when this film came out.
2000, okay, and Back to the Hood come out in 2003. So
God, they had they had two.
Yeah, I'll talk a little bit about Back to the Hood. It's awful.
God, but, this is terrible.
So, directed by Rob Spira, written by Mark Jones, based upon the characters by. Now, here's how you know that you've got a quality movie, folks. When there's like 5 or 6 people credited with the writing of it.
Oh shit.
We've got William Wells, Alan Reynolds, Rob Spira, and Doug Hall all credited with the story. And then we got Doug Hall and John Huffman credited with the screenplay. So there was like 7 people, give or take, involved with the making of this damn thing, or the writing of it. Music by Nicholas Rivera. Of course, a lot of rap music, and a lot of it's terrible. Budget of $1.4 million, straight to video, so there's no box office results for it. And I don't know what the video take, but I think this was actually well received because a lot of people enjoy like how out there this movie is.
Oh my God.
Principal players, we got Anthony Montgomery, Postmaster P. Smith, who's our final boy in this movie.
Okay.
He was on General Hospital for a lot of episodes, and then was in Star Trek Enterprise. Of course, we have Warwick Davis back as the Leprechaun, the evil forest spirit turned miser pimp. And we'll get into that in a minute. We have Ice-T in this movie, folks, playing one of the best characters in any of these movies, Mac Daddy Onassis. He's a straight up pimp, y'all, and he's a music producer in this movie. And Ice-T's been in New Jack City, Tank Girl, Johnny Mnemonic. The Other Guys is the narrator. I love that movie. Has done a ton of video game voiceovers, his own music, and then, of course, he's been in Law and Order SVU, where we get that classic line, "I got news for you. That means you're gay." Look it up on the internet. It's hilarious. Barima McKnight plays Slug, who's the greedy pimp that helps old Mac Daddy free the leprechaun at the beginning of the movie. We have Dan Martin playing Jackie D, who's a pawn shop owner, and we get 2 pawn shop owners who get attacked in this movie. So we double that. Dan Martin was in Heat, Casualties of War, Rush Hour, and Doom Patrol. We have Jack Ong playing Chow Yun Pai, who's another pawn shop owner. He was in Next with Nick Cage and in General Hospital. We have Lobo Sebastian playing Fontaine Rivera, who is a very over-sexualized drag queen in this movie.
Okay.
He was in The Mule, The Longest Yard in 2005 with Adam Sandler, Next Friday with Ice Cube, Ghost of Mars, From Dusk Till Dawn, the TV series, and 1 episode of Lucifer, the TV show. We have Eric Mansker playing Mac Daddy's bodyguard, and he was a stuntman in several movies, including They Live. We have Ivory Ocean, which is a hell of a name. That has to be a stage name, playing Reverend Hanson, who's ready to convert ladies of the night to the Lord. I'll get to the reason why I say that in a minute. He was in Walk in the Clouds, The Mask, and Lost Highway. And we have Rashawn Nall playing Stray Bullet, who is the friend and bandmate to Postmaster. And then rounding out the cast, we have Rand Grant playing Butch, the friend and bandmate to the Postmaster. Synopsis: when a couple of stone-cold pimps break into the depths of the subway in search of some treasure, and they don't give a reason why they're searching, but they are, they find some Colt 45 and a cheeseburger. And our old buddy Lep and his golden treasures. But it seems old Lep's got himself turned into stone again by use of the magic medallion. He also has a magical flute this time. Slug gets greedy, freeing Lep, and Mac Daddy barely survives. Skip ahead 20 years, and some of the worst rappers in the business are having a hard time getting the money for a speaker, so they grovel to Mac Daddy for the cash. He has some news for them, though, and tells them that they're gay. I mean, he tells them to get the fuck out of his place, and they decide to rob him, freeing Lep once more. Hearts get exploded in their chest, and in people's chests. People gank themselves with magic. The alphabet people would want to bury this movie if they knew it existed. And Lep smokes the finest weed. Evil's in the house, y'all. Which is another tagline from this movie.
I can't. I literally cannot.
Oh, my God. Body count 10.
That's pretty respectable.
Yeah. We have Slug, who has an afro pick shoved in his throat.
Fucking racist.
This movie, man, it gets the Colt 45 right from the beginning. I was like, damn, they went there. And then the afro pick, I'm like, yep,
yeah,
you know what you're doing.
A lot of people from the hood, including white Noah, remembers drinking Colt 45s. We all did. Those of us who were from the hood, I don't claim that energy anymore, because I am a Latina that married a white man.
Yeah, it was either some Jack Daniels or some PBR around here, but that's how we roll.
Oh, my God.
Natty Light if you're nasty, you know.
Okay, wait. Do we know? And this may be in the trivia, so you can tell me to wait. But do we know?
There's no trivia for this. It was shit trivia. So go ahead and ask me.
Do black people receive this? Did they receive this movie well?
I think they love this movie. To be honest with you.
So then it is not racist. The Afro pick was not racist. I recant.
The bartender in the movie and the actor, nobody knows like his name, so I couldn't like put him in anything in the credits. He's electrocuted through the microphone stand.
Okay.
Jackie D is slammed 7 times against the car by his dead ex. And how this happens, this is another trap by a leprechaun. He appears to Jackie D as Sandy D or something like that, who is Jackie D's old girlfriend who apparently died and came back to him. And while she's sitting there basically making out with him, her face slowly turns into like a zombie-like, version of the leprechaun's face, and then she kills him. So that's how he dies. But the leprechaun portrays a woman again.
Okay.
We have Chow Yun Pai, who's strangled and ripped to pieces. It's pretty standard. We have Fontaine Rivera, the drag queen. Now, it's unclear how Fontaine dies. The scene that we have is our 3 protagonists, Stray Bullet, Butch, and Postmaster, walk in on Fontaine because they keep hearing her grunting, or him. I don't know what pronouns Fontaine goes by, but keeps saying and sees that that Fontaine is in the bed with somebody bouncing up on top of her. So, and this is after Fontaine has led the leprechaun into her room. I'm just going to call her to bang the leprechaun. She's like, she looks at him. She's like, I'll throw a fuck at you. If you're willing, I'm ready.
Yeah.
And this guy looks awful as a drag queen too, by the way. It's so nasty. But anyways, there's a scene where they're like, and all you can see is like somebody under the covers, writhing up and down on top of her. So they're just like, Fontaine's getting some, and they walk back out. And the next thing you see is the covers flip back, and Fontaine's like got blood running out of her mouth and like around her throat, and she's dead. So there you go. I don't know if the leprechaun actually fucked her to death, or if like he was like, basically, because he didn't look like he was just like using his claws. I mean, he was making the motion, so I don't know what was going on there.
Yeah, but was he riding the dick, so he was getting it up the butt?
Yeah, that's what they're implying.
Ay, okay.
There's Mac's bodyguard who has his heart blown up via magic, and that's my biggest issue with this movie. If the leprechaun can look at these folks in this movie, he does it twice, and he snaps his fingers, and their hearts explode in their chest, and it's like pretty massive, and there's like a huge cavity left. Why doesn't he just kill everybody that way in the movie?
Yeah, why you gotta go make things so complicated?
Why do you gotta fuck the drag queen to death? I mean, come on, guy.
Because
and I mean,
he
you were
wanted
getting
it in
up the ass while you were doing
fucking
it.
butthole. Like, obviously, it's been hinted. He's been wanting it because he was dressing like a woman, hoping that somebody would go for it, and now finally somebody did.
Now, this movie establishes that he is an ultimate horn dog. Now, I mean, as long as you're dressed like a woman, he'll go for you. I'll get to that in a minute. But old Postmaster, he almost gets violated in his own way. We'll get to that in a minute. But the leprechaun does. He actually solicits these whores from hell to help him. There's 3 of them. They're like the fly girls.
Yes.
And they go around seducing like, these men, but they also get these young women to agree to go up and meet with a leprechaun. He tries them out, and then if they, in quotation marks, and if they work, then he puts them out on the street earning them money. So he turns into a full-on pimp in this movie.
Oh my God. This is fucking terrible. Which, by the way, his bitches are fine. They're pretty good looking.
We have Reverend Hansen, who has his hand through the back and out of the stomach or whatever. So he basically gets his heart ripped out, through his stomach. He gets seduced by one of the whores from hell. Like, it's funny. He's supposed to be like this big time evangelical black preacher. And then one of the fly honeys walks in. He's like, why, the Lord's got some time to convert you, honey. And before she, turns in, or, before the leprechaun comes up from behind him and takes him out. So he was doing some stuff in that church is all I'm going to say.
Yeah.
We have Stray Bullet, who's forced to shoot himself in the throat with a handgun via magic. The leprechaun just makes him turn the gun on himself and kill himself. And again, if the leprechaun can do this, why does he do anything else? But, I digress. Butch is shot 3 times in the chest with a handgun, but he's actually shot by Mac Daddy, so that's not technically Leprechaun's fault. I believe it's the Mac Daddy does that in that scene. Mac Daddy Onassis has his finger ripped off early in the movie because he's got like a one of the rings on his finger is been melted down from the gold that he got from the leprechaun, so the leprechaun takes his gold back. This is after they share a joint together, by the way.
Of course it is, because why not?
Yeah. And you actually, it almost looks like the leprechaun like is friends with him for a split second. He's like, "Yeah, I dig this weed," and he's like, but then he rips and he gives Mac Daddy the job. He's like, "Go find my gold," he said, or you're dead too, So he actually lets Mac Daddy live throughout the movie, even though Mac Daddy's the one that originally stole it from him. But Mac Daddy is shot in the chest 3 times with a handgun by a postmaster, and then has his insides blown up via magic from the leprechaun again, using that magic. Not counting this movie is the club girl that is sent up by the 3 hoes from hell.
3 hoes from hell.
Yeah, I think she was just pimped out by Lep. There's some. I mean, she could have been killed by him when she went up there to share the special alone time with him, but I think he was just pimping her out. And then Postmaster P gets possessed at the end of the movie. He's one of the worst final, girls, boys, whatever you want to call them in any of the movies, because he doesn't actually defeat the leprechaun. The leprechaun actually uses him to make money as, in another way, he's pimping him out as like a rapper in this sense. So
all I'm thinking of is old dirty bastard, baby, I got your money.
I wouldn't be surprised if they would have played that if they'd had access to it.
Oh my God.
But yeah, there's there is a lot of the leprechaun is very lecherous in this movie. Like he is very much like anytime he sees a woman, he comments on how their ass looks. He's smoking weed in this movie. I mean, he's throwing out a lot of stuff that's almost racist. Like, I'm down with you, homie. That sort of stuff. So that's what you get in this movie, just so you know.
Just for reference, Leprechaun Wiki refers to the hoes from hell as the zombie fly girls. So you were not wrong when you said that.
Yeah, that's what which is funny because there's a music video at the very end of the movie where Warwick Davis in full gear, he goes through there and he possesses the 3 women in the music video when he's singing Lepin Hood Up to No Good. He possesses the 3 women that become the fly honeys from hell, and they're just like random club girls in one of the bars that he's at. So I don't know, it doesn't fit the fact that but in the movie he straight up he puts out a call. He's like, send me 3 whores from hell to do my bidding, and then they appear. So like, I don't, it doesn't really match up, but whatever. It is what it is. Quotes from this movie. We have Butch. What the fuck is that? And then Stray Bullet. I don't know. Chucky on crack. Shoot that motherfucker.
Chucky on crack. Shut up.
Postmaster, this is the awful scene in the movie. So the Reverend Hanson is desperate to have somebody sing his gospel church. He tells the boys that he'll help them against the leprechaun if they'll just do this one thing for him. So he gets them in there to sing for the church choir, and they start singing. And here's the song they sing. Jesus loves me, this I know. If he don't, I'll find a hoe.
Oh, shut up.
His mama's name was Mary Jo, and his disciples was some bad mofo. They legit sing that. I'm telling you, the music that the postmaster and his group sing are some of the worst fucking things I've ever heard in my life. The leprechaun. I'll take it from you, homie. You'll see, because the leprechaun is the real OG.
Oh, my God.
And at the beginning of the movie, they which I thought was funny because I watched this one and part 1 back to back, and they reused the scene where he's, closing the door and he's walking down in that stone cellar that he, starts out with, where he's playing with the gold or whatever.
Yeah.
From the very first part of the movie. They do that in this one, but they change it. And he says, "Death to he who sets a leprechaun free. Steal his gold, it will corrupt your soul, you see. For many a moon the legend has grown. Death toll increases, solution unknown. Beware the evil wanderer in search of his loot, lest you suffer the wrath of his golden flute. Flee while you can, the future's not good, for no one is safe from a lep in the hood."
I don't.
By the way, the flute is magical. Every time Postmaster P plays it, people stop what they're doing and they just give them whatever they want. So that's what the flute is supposed to represent. That doesn't really get brought up any other point in the movie other than the fact when they're hoodwinking the Jackie D and Chow Yun Pai or whatever. But they, but it is shown in the movie. So
Well, I got a little something that I want to play. Thank you, everybody, for attending this episode of Leprechaun. God!
This is a classic. Look at all these glittering goods. I've got more loot than Tiger Woods.
Shut.
This is good from Mac Daddy on the phone. Hey, you listen to me. You don't want to fuck with me, okay? I hope you had sex last night because I'm going to come over there and I'm going to cut off your dick. Then I'm going to feed it to my pit. Then I'm going to burn the shit when it comes out my goddamn dog's ass. You hear me? Don't fuck with me, bitch. Paints a picture, doesn't it?
It really does. A picture that I did not subscribe to look at.
And then, of course, the leprechaun being as lecherous as possible. Come closer, my fresh young lass. Let me take a look at you before I tap your ass.
Oh, my God.
That's when he's talking to the club girl before she disappears upstairs with him. The kills in this are actually decent. I mean, it's got a good look to it. The story is stupid, obviously, but it's not going for a good story. The leprechaun does not get defeated at the end. He's actually a music producer, and he's using the young black man to get his riches. Which there's commentary there, I'm sure.
Yes, I mean from the fucking 50s and 60s alone.
The leprechaun does look different in this movie, and then technically the fourth one, but he's got much longer hair. I noticed it more in this one though. It's like halfway down his back, so he's got more. Like it's more pronounced. The acting, Warwick Davis is great. Ice-T is great. Everybody else in this movie is awful. Just dog shit. Postmaster P is the most non-person. Like Jennifer Aniston makes him look, or it looks like like the greatest thespian ever compared to this guy. So just if it wasn't for Ice-T being in this movie is Mac Daddy Onassis and Warwick Davis, this movie wouldn't stand up. The whole thing with Fontaine Rivera is so weird. And there's the whole thing where Butch, who kind of looks like Fontaine, but is not the same actor, they're looking at each other, and like Fontaine's like giving him like these kissy lips and stuff like that. And it's almost like Butch is confused. He's like he's almost turned on, but he knows he shouldn't be because it's a drag queen. So there's that whole commentary. That's the reason I said that the alphabet people would probably hate this movie because, not only do you introduce this stereotypical, drag queen, but also the drag queen is like basically a fuck anything that looks at the leprechaun is like, sure, I'll fuck you. That's the kind of person that Fontaine is. And then, and everybody basically calls out the fact that, Fontaine's like this, is just really fucked up, that way. So there's that whole part of it. The Fly Honeys, they look pretty good. None of them shows their breasts, though, so we're missing out on any of that. The only breasts you see are Fontaine's, and they're not worth looking at, believe me, folks.
Boo.
If I could give like a negative rating to the worst boobs, it would be Fontaine Rivera's. They're fat old man titties, so there you go, if that's what you want to look at. More so than the Coach Snyder in Nightmare on Elm Street 2. The music's awful because, like I said, the main character. But it's just the leprechaun and the kills in this movie. That's what saves it. Because he has seeing like Warwick Davis like lean into that like pimp version of the leprechaun is hilarious. It's actually pretty funny. So yeah, and there's no trivia for this. What trivia there was is like actually like a bunch of stuff about like this was the last film that like what Trimark ever did with the series. Like it was bought by WWE of all people, like after, and then like Sci-Fi and released another movie after that, I think. But yeah, it's a lot of it was about like the video sales and stuff. It really didn't have anything to do with the making of the movie or anything like that. As far as the Death Holler Awards, Leprechaun's great. Postmaster P sucks as a final boy. He doesn't even get the job done. He's basically the bitch of the Leprechaun at the end of the movie. And it shows the scene where the medallion's falling down on Leprechaun, and it kind of gives you a hint for a split second that it fell back on him, because that's how Mac Daddy defeated him, because it accidentally fell down on the Leprechaun right whenever he was getting ready to kill Mac Daddy back in the 70s or whenever it was.
Yeah.
And it just so happened that it turned him back to stone, and so he's in his place that he's got, his house or apartment or whatever it is, mansion, he's got like the Leprechaun in a glass cage or a glass case, with a medallion on it. So kind of like how he looked from Leprechaun 3 in a sense, completely in stone. But when you think it's falling back down on him at the end, but it doesn't, because clearly the Leprechaun's like standing behind Postmaster, and Postmaster's eyes turn green, just like the fly honeys did whenever they were under control of the Leprechaun. And so that kind of gives you a hint what's happening.
The fly honeys.
The best kill is the chest explosions or the hair pick in the neck. The afro pick, probably just because of how racist it is, probably wins out. I mean, because it's like, the fuck you went there, and I guess kudos to you for it.
Yeah.
The best scream, there's none really in the movie. Maybe Fontaine Riviera during the gutting, quotation marks, because it was more moans than it was screaming, though. I guess the Leprechaun wasn't given as good as he got. Best Leprechaun quote, I saved this one. A friend with weed is a friend indeed, but a friend with gold is the best, I'm told. That's when he's sharing the joint with Mac Daddy.
No.
Best side characters for sure, Mac Daddy Onassis. He makes the fucking movie. Every time Ice-T's on screen, it's like it's just a joy to see him, because he's the stereotypical, like what you would think he would be in this movie. Like,
yeah.
How annoying is Doom Prophet? The Doom Prophet is Butch in this movie. He keeps talking about how the Leprechaun's going to kill him, and nobody believes that there's a Leprechaun around because he's the only one that saw him for most of the movie. And he plays almost the same exact character, even though he's supposed to be super smart, because he can make. That's the reason they're needing a speaker, is because he technically blew up their speaker using like these pyrotechnics at the beginning of the movie, and he uses the pyrotechnics to attack the Leprechaun right after that he's killed like Fontaine. He's supposed to be a genius when it comes to chemicals, but he's as dumb in a lot of ways as Ozzy from the first movie. So he's pretty much the same character as Ozzy. And so I'm going to give him the honorary Franklin Award too, because he's, same character, same.
He looks like a black version of him.
He kind of is. I mean, honestly. Dumbest moment in the movie, basically any of them taking on the Leprechaun after finding out that he can explode your chest by just willing it. I mean, for fuck's sake, if you saw a little guy just look at somebody, point at them, and their chest exploded, I'd give up. I'd be like, what are we going to do against this damn thing? Like, I mean, really.
Like, what do you want me to do? I could be a fly honey.
Or he could dress you up. That's the other thing that I forgot to mention. Postmaster P, in order to get into the Leprechaun's lair, because they find out the Leprechaun is pimping these women, Butch convinces Postmaster P, to dress up as a woman. They both do, I think, but Postmaster P is the one that's clearly the whore of the two of them.
Yes.
And so he's in this outfit, looks ridiculous. He is interviewing with the Leprechaun, and the Leprechaun is way worse than Harvey Weinstein ever thought about being, because he has old Postmaster sit on his leg, and he has him move his hand down to his crotch, and right before he's about to find the goods, find the pot of gold at the end of that rainbow, something happens. I think that's when Mac Daddy actually breaks into the place, and that's whenever things change. But he almost got to find that good old pot of gold in the wrong place. So that happened. And the Leprechaun kind of hints that he knows that it was Postmaster. So what does that say about the Leprechaun?
He was looking for the junk in the trunk.
Also, it's the dumbest moment in the movie from the Leprechaun's perspective, because if he can kill him with a heart explosion, why not? I mean,
yeah,
but he would rather you like fondle his leprechaun penis before he does it, I guess. I don't know what's going on in this movie. I did actually go on to watch Back to the Hood.
Oh my God.
That movie is awful, and I don't recommend anybody watch it. So The only good things I can remember about that movie is that there's a scene where the leprechaun is on the phone after he's killed a bunch of gangsters with this, one of them, somebody tries to call one of the gangsters, and it's like the girlfriend or something. And it's hilarious. Warwick Davis at his best. He's talking to the lady, and it's almost like he's trying to set up a date with her. He's like, oh, well, she's asking, he's like, oh, well, he's like, I've got long red hair, and I'm a swell dresser. And then and of course he doesn't rhyme in this movie either. But then she asks him how tall he is. He's like, 3'6", and then she hangs up on him, and he gets pissed off or whatever. So, and then there's one more scene in the. Oh yeah, he smokes a bong with somebody and then kills him with a bong. So there's that.
That's
in that
disrespectful.
Yeah,
that's like stealing someone's gold, and he should know better than that.
But those are the only two scenes that stand out in that movie. The rest of the movie straight up plays like a very bad Tyler Perry movie. It's like you've got the main character, the final girl. She's like she's the cashier at a black salon, basically black run salon. And she's trying to save up money to go to college. Of course, that's why she's one of the, she gets attracted to the gold because, that whole thing. And then it just plays out like a Tyler Perry drama for most of the movie. And the leprechaun's not even in it for a good chunk of it. And there's one scene where he's like standing on a tree in the middle of this subdivision. And I got vibes going back. I don't remember if you remember this story. There was a story from the South. I think it was Georgia where I think it was a couple of black people. It made internet fame because it was on TV. They were talking about how they saw a leprechaun up in a tree. And it was like back in the early 2000s, whenever that came out, I believe. Do you remember that story at all?
No.
Yeah, it got pretty big because it was like one of the first viral videos that got out there because they got just like how they do with rednecks, they got the dumbest people they could on camera and then had them explain what was going on. And and the best part of it was they drew a picture of what the leprechaun was, and it was the shittiest kid drawn thing you can imagine, stick figure. And they're like, yeah, he was up in the tree and he was throwing shit at us, and he's like, get down, leprechaun. And and when I saw Warwick Davis standing in the tree, I'm like, were they deliberately calling back to that viral internet video? They had to have been.
Yeah.
But he's not even in the movie for most of it. And then when he is, it's better. But then I was just like, yeah, this movie blows. I checked out after the halfway point and was on my phone, and I just waited for it to end. So I didn't really watch it all the way, but it is what it is. I
can't believe you made it this far into the series.
But Leprechaun in the Hood's actually funny in parts, so I'll give it credit. So anything you want to say about this series, period? It was a challenge for both of us, I think.
Apparently not as big of a challenge for you. You were challenge accepted, and I was like, nope, the fuck out of here.
Yeah, I noped out of Skin to Deep, so that was my nope.
Which is rare because you don't nope out of a lot of movies. I stood my ground. I was firm in my decision. I was like, I cannot do this if I'm going to retain any respect for a Leprechaun movie, period. I need to end it here.
I would suggest, given what you liked in the series, watch part 3. It is okay. It's a good mix. It's probably the best mix of if you want actual horror but with a comedy and the standard horror movie tropes. It's the best in the series. Honestly, it's the best looking. It's got the best mix of characters that actually stand out. I mean, even side characters, and it doesn't go off the rails goofy like part 4 and everything after did. So
yeah, I might do that. I think the husband might want to watch In the Hood too. Yeah. So
just know that In the Hood is just hilarious. It's so bad. Oh, and I forgot one thing about Back to the Hood. So to get by with the fact that they couldn't have Warwick Davis obviously saying the N-word or any variation of it, even if it ended on a hard R or an A, there is a scene in the movie where a white guy is buying drugs off of one of the main characters. And like I said, I don't give a shit. This way they set it up. They had him walk up and he said, "Hey, my net," and he said the A version of it. And they were like, "Man, you can't be saying that." It's like we started calling each other ninjas so we don't have to say that word anymore. So that's their setup, so that later, all that setup is just so that Warwick Davis can look at somebody later in the movie and say, "Hey, my ninjas," you know.
Oh my God, no.
I laughed when I was like, "So that's the reason you said that ninjas are the acceptable version of
Yeah.
that word." Okay.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that's the kind of movies we got with this, folks.
I can't believe you even talked me into doing an episode for this. I was like, I don't know.
Hey, we're not the only ones who covered this around this time. I know that the Dead Pit guys just recently did a fan commentary for the movies and got a bunch of people involved. So we're in the same boat. Like we all kind of hit the leprechaun, stuff at the same time.
Yeah. I mean, what is appropriate? I mean, we literally just passed St. Patty's Day, so it makes sense, but holy shit. You know what we need? We need a Cinco de Mayo slasher.
I am actually sure that there is one of those, and I will gladly look for that. And,
oh my God!
And to give you representation on this podcast,
yes, I need representation. Everyone, clearly very Latino over here with my thick accent and my Latino ways.
But I'm sure there's one out there, and I will see. It'll probably be a really bad one, though, to be perfectly honest. Not that these were great, but I'm saying it's probably going to be even lower budget than that.
Oh my gosh. Probably that La Llorona film I told you about, but that's more of a spirit, because it was a spirit, but it was definitely a slasher. I mean, she was tearing bitches up.
Yeah, there's that. I mean, there's technically that one from the Conjuring universe that's got Linda Cardellini in it, but I mean, outside of her, that's the only good thing I can say about that movie. So
we can't even do like a chupacabra because those are that's creature feature.
That's creature feature. Yep.
Yeah. Lame.
There is probably a Cinco de Mayo movie though.
Hold on, let's Google it while we're on the air still. Cinco de Mayo, if I could spell.
While you're looking that up, I'm going to throw it out there for the Leanne Tuitt guys, the blue collar guys. Still recording on Sundays, right?
Yes.
They've not changed to Fridays yet.
No, not yet.
What is it? Is it 8:00 your time or is it later?
It's 8:00 our time.
Okay.
And so they're usually pretty late. They're on Mexican time apparently, so it's usually like around 8:23 to be specific.
To be Pacific, but
yeah, but shut up.
But that is LEAN to it, the number 2 it.
Yeah, LEAN. So lean into it. So number 2 it. Quite a few Cinco de Mayo films. Let's see what we have here. We have one. It is called appropriately Cinco de Mayo. It's from 2013. Let's see. After being unjustly fired and harassed by his students, a labeled and potential menace to society, El Maestro sets out to teach everyone a final lesson.
Okay. I think I'm seeing the same one. Has that got the cover? It's got like a mask on it with looks like blood or something leaking out of it.
Yes. Okay. It got a 5.4 out of 10 on IMDb.
That's actually that's higher than so Leprechaun 3 is the highest rating on of any of the movies the Leprechaun series, so that gives another reason why you should watch Leprechaun 3, but it is like I think it got a 5, so actually Cinco de Mayo got slightly higher than the highest Leprechaun film as far as ratings.
Yeah. Now Bloody Disgusting has an article and it said celebrate Cinco de Mayo with 5 underrated Mexican horror films. Hold on, let me see if Cemetery of Terror. No, thank you.
Kronos is Guillermo del Toro, but it's a vampire movie.
Yeah. Let me see. But these aren't Cinco de Mayo, and that other film was actually called Cinco de Mayo. Alucarda, which is Dracula, probably in Spanish. It's like Dracula with the A at the beginning. Alucarda is how it's pronounced.
Oh yeah, just reverse Valicard. Okay, I gotcha.
Kronos, which you saw. The Witch's Mirror, El Espejo de la Bruja. Let me see, which is dumb. Ladrones de Tumbas, which is grave robbers. But these aren't Cinco de Mayo; they're just Mexican films. So Cinco de Mayo, it would be.
Yeah, it's that one movie because it's the only one that's the slasher. But it looks like they went so far as to make a 1980s VHS style case for it, which is always cool when they do that for
Yeah.
like throwbacks. So that might be worth looking at.
It might be, and I don't know. Hold on, I'm going right now. There is not even a where to watch. Um, there's a lot of like Rotten Tomatoes they have done reviews on it and everything, but like I don't know where to watch it. Amazon.
Shows Tubi has it, so there you go.
How did you get that?
Yep.
Yeah, how did you find that?
Diagnosed with Aztec bloodlust is what it says.
Oh my God. Hold on. 2013. Usually there's like Google has a where to watch.
Yeah. I just looked it up to see if Tubi had it, and they do. They have everything.
Okay, so all right, then we'll just have to catch that on Tubi. I mean, I know we're a ways away from May. We've still got April Fools and everything, but that would be hilarious.
Some movies actually leave Tubi, so I don't know. We might need to watch that and have like the review ready to go.
Oh,
like,
okay.
Or, before it leaves it, but we'll work that out, beforehand.
Okay, we'll do that.
Next one that we're doing is, what is it? I mean, I know we got April Fool's Day probably next. I don't know if we do that or we do the next three in the Nightmare series. Like it's one or the other. I don't know. We can always, if we're a little late with April Fools, I mean, that kind of plays in April Fools anyways.
Yeah.
It's like, haha, it's late,
Well, April Fools, I would like to get April Fools out appropriately when we need to, but hold on. April 1st is on a Saturday. So if anything, we could have it ready March 31st, and that could be the Friday film. Oh, I don't know.
Probably if we're going to do it and we're going to have it ready, and because it's so close, because we talked about it, we do that and the Behind the Mask, The Rise of Leslie Vernon, because that was the jokey movie that I wanted to include with the April Fool's Day actual movie called April Fool's Day, the slasher. So we can do both of those and have those ready the next time that we record. So
yeah. And then the only other thing we said was starting up Scary Movie, and because you only wanted to review Scary Movie.
Oh, yes. Throw that in there.
Yeah. So that was April. And then May, we obviously have talked about Cinco de Mayo, but then we said continue Nightmare on Elm Street possibly.
What we could, we could technically do an elongated episode with the with April Fool's Day, Scary Movie, and Behind the Mask, and to do all, and then like the later part of April, the next three Nightmare movies, and throw those in there.
Quite possibly. So yeah. But anyways, yeah, we've got a pretty decent lineup. So
we got way more movies than we'll probably have to extend this season out past what we normally do just to be able to get them in. But that's fine, because that's the longer you have before you actually have to start watching the zombie movies.
Oh yeah,
regs.
I'm totally okay with that. So, but the thing that sucks is there's so many zombie films to review too. That's like a slasher season.
Yeah, there are, but the amount of good ones is not as many as the decent slashers, to be honest.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody and their mother has made a zombie movie, and that they're not all that good. I mean,
we'll have to discuss the Zombie Survival Guide as well, because we've both read it, I believe, right?
We have. I actually want to go back and give me a reason to go back and reread it. But,
yeah, I'll probably have to do that too.
I've read World War Z, but it's been a long time since I've read that one.
I don't remember if I read that one or not. I know that Noah read that one, but that's obviously a movie that we'll discuss. So the book is, obviously appropriate for us to discuss when we discuss the movie. Have you read any of the graphic novels for Walking Dead?
I read up until the time when... well, it's a spoiler alert, but a certain person gets taken out by Negan, and when that happened, I said, nope.
Oh, you nubbed the fuck out of there. Okay, I mean, I read pretty far past that, and it was nothing like the TV show, but I'll probably just give basic things that I remembered from reading it. Some of the insane highlights, which would make sense because it's human horror, but it's zombie.
That would also give me a reason to go back. There is a Eric Powell, I believe is his name. It could be Hal, but I think it's Powell. Is like a Tennessee comic book artist writer who created The Goon, and that has a lot of zombies in it. I mean, but it's like it's like an almost like Will Eisner style that he has. Like the characters are very cartoony looking. They're like set back in the Depression era, and it's like the main character, the goon. He is like a big, like, you know, mob enforcer looking guy, and like Frankie is his little, like, you know, almost like midget sidekick who like goes around with him, and they're like taking on like it's a lot of zombie stuff because there's a necromancer in the story, but like that reanimates the dead, but also they fight other, like, you know, supernatural creatures, and I really love that series too.
Yeah.
This season, I would like, if we have the opportunity, I know it's getting into a tangent, but the Hack Slash series at least covers some of the versions of that, because that they even had her, like Cassie Hack, the final girl in that series, which I love the story behind that. But she actually ends up fighting Chucky in one part of it. So, and I mean, they got the rights to actually have her fight Chucky in the story.
Okay, Hack Slash series. What is this? What is it on?
It'd be on Comixology, but it's a comic book series.
Okay, and that's fine with me. I love reading comics, so, which is funny. I used to have an issue reading them when I was younger. I didn't understand the panels, but Comixology, not sponsored by them, but hey, we're looking for sponsors if you want. They make it easier for me.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very well done series. It plays in, I mean, the guy who wrote and, like, you know, helped the art and all that stuff for it knew exactly what he was getting into with it. I mean, he's got the final girl tropes down to a T. He's got a character that helps her that looks like basically a knockoff Jason Voorhees, but he's actually a big lovable goof. He just,
oh my God,
the way he was raised, it was, you know, he was kept in like a basement his entire life, so he hides his like disfigurement behind a mask like Jason, but he's not a serial killer.
Yeah.
But they fight like what they call revenants, which are, you know, like these dead, or, you know, creatures that are returned back to just kill.
Yeah.
Which is, you know, and it going along with like Freddy and Jason and that sort of thing. So.
All right. Well, we're gonna have to set time aside for that and figure out when we're gonna go over that.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing. I mean, maybe when we get close, like in September, if we've got the time.
Yeah.
I don't know, but
that sounds pretty
that'd
good,
be a good time to cover that.
Yeah.
And I think that's it for this episode.
Yeah, we made it. I survived.
And with that, peace be with you.
And with your spirit.